Welcome to the Ramblers of the Round Table Podcast. Here, the table has no head, and every seat holds equal weight. We gather to bridge the gap between the known and the unknown, diving deep into the rabbit holes of both the hard sciences and the speculative frontiers. Whether you're an outside-the-box thinker, a seeker of hidden truths, or someone looking to see beyond the surface, you have a place here. Join us as we explore the unseen and question the unspoken. Pull up a chair, put your name on it, and let's get ready to ramble.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ramblers of the Round Table Podcast. I'm Scott Nichols, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my brother so he can introduce himself. Go ahead.
Thank you, Scott. I'm Brett Smiler. I'm from Scotland in the UK, and we haven't done a podcast for a little while now, so I'm super excited to have a ramble with you, Scotty and Jackie. And I'm Brett, and nice to meet you all.
So, everybody, we're going to have some fun talk today. Brett and I and Jackie, we've just been dying to talk about this, and sorry, it's been a little while. Life gets happening. We both have been busy. Brett's had friends come up to visit. So life's just been busy for us. But we wanted to dive back in and not a better time to dive into disclosure, some topic. This is like one of our main things that we love talking about, the disclosure. I mean, it's something that Brett and I and Jackie, we just ramble with each other for hours about this. And I'm sure that most people do too. And now that Disclosure Day, the movie is out there, we also have that. And there's a lot of little hidden things if you haven't seen the movie yet. There's a lot of little hidden truths that are in there. So that will be one thing that we will be covering today. But our main topic, we're just going to be rambling about the different things that are going on. We have the missing scientists. We've had some turns in that are interesting to find out. Brett and I both have heard about like Melissa Cassius. They ended up finding her. They found her body in the place that they already looked, and supposedly that she had a gunshot. One bullet, I believe, was shot. They found in her, but they also found a gun, and the gun wasn't discharged. It never fired a shot. So weird incident, weird things are going on. And then we also have the movie that came out, and if you followed anything, we have the Ramblers Vault, and we go over these case files. And these case files are actually, there's some of them that are in the movie that are case files that if you search, you'll find them, and they are in there. And we'll go over that in just a little bit. But I know that there's four, the government has been talking about, that there's four different species that they're willing to say that are out there. And I know Brett knows a little bit about the different species. So, hey, you want to cover a little bit about the four different species that they said that are out?
Yeah, definitely, man. And I look forward to hearing about the cases as well. So I'm looking forward to that, Scotty. It's not so much the government have said this, but it's been come out on mainstream media that certain insiders have spoken about it. And there's four main species they've been talking about, which are Nordics. This is the pop culture names, or anyone who's into the disclosure movement from non-mainstream. So the Nordics, which are like tall whites, which are very human looking, maybe slightly different ears, very taller, blonde hair, crisp blue eyes, human species. Some all the ones actually, the four they bought are all bipedal, so they've got the 5-star system: head, arms, legs. Also insectoids or mantis beings, which many people have had experiences, shall we say, or what they say, abductions have experienced. Also the Greys, which also anyone would know the Greys from many, many movies. They've been in movies, the X-Files for some time, and millions of people across the world have reported having experiences of them visiting them, having some kind of experience with the Greys. And the last one, of course, would be the reptilians, which, look, many people say our royal family over here in the UK are lizards, who knows, possibly. But I would say there's probably more than four species. I mean, also you can hear some of the whistleblowers, especially CIA side, even in the 70s, 80s, we're talking of 69 species they knew about then. And I imagine that's probably grown into immense amount of beings that probably are in the universe, and some of them probably are interested in Earth. Some of them may even come from Earth. That might sound crazy to some people, but when you look into the inner Earth situation, that's probably quite liably real. and also about bases under the water, deep under the water, that are extraterrestrial bases. So some of these beings might not even be coming from the outside. They might be coming here they actually live on Earth. And of course, another thing is was J.D. Vance. Of course, he added another species to that and said they're all demons, which I think was probably a mistake on his part. Demons. I mean, I don't think that demons will be using advanced technologies to fly around the universe. It's probably more highly probable that they're probably the experience of different beings or different consciousness. There probably is different answers to it. It's probably not one. They're all biologicals. They also talk of interdimensional, interfrequential beings, which have gone beyond the body, which quite often can be perceived as orbs or flames in the sky. So they are conscious. They are consciousness. They're not a technology. They are a being of some kind of awareness, but they're not like us. Then you have the species that probably come from other planets. So they're biological, probably more advanced. Well, certainly they are more advanced than certainly the mainstream technology we have. That might be different in the projects, of course, if we've been back engineering them. So some of them will be coming from other planets, from other worlds. Like we say, some might be coming from other dimensions, from other realms. So it's frequential. It's not like so much as a location, but a vibrational state, which puts you there. And of course, like I said at the beginning, that some of these beings might actually be on Earth, which some people might find shocking, but they might just been hidden and separate from us for some time. So there's a little overthrow of the beings. But I would say that the universe, from going into the research, from experiences I've had, like physical experiences, also DMT and through meditation, that my thoughts, and I know a lot of people would probably be on the same line as this, actually there's an unbelievable amount of different consciousness there, experiencing itself in many different forms. And there's many different layers to that. So there's probably not one answer. And of course, some people say they're from the future, they're us from the future, which again, some of them could be. Temporal mechanics is a real thing, and mathematically certainly possible. So yeah, very interesting subject. So yeah, but 4 main ones on the news. So what does that mean? Does that mean that could be leading up to maybe one of these down retrievals, or they admit to that one of these species could be the ones they say, maybe Roswell? They were certainly great extraterrestrials, which they called the Ebens. But yeah, there's a kickstart on that, Scott. I don't want to go too off, but there's something on that. I don't know if you want to add to that, or you've got something else.
Yeah, no, definitely. That leads right into well, I'm going to jump into the movie a little bit, Disclosure Day. And now, a fascinating scene that I had seen. A scene that I had seen. But it's true. There's a scene that I saw in the movie, and it just hit home for me because I've been doing these case files. Like I said, if you follow the Ramblers Vault, in 1964, the Holloman Air Force Base, it was actually said that a radar kicks off, and there's 3 crafts in the sky. They didn't sound alarms. We didn't panic. The military didn't send up, fighter jets. Nothing. It was just calm at the base. These three crafts come in. 2 of them stay stationary up in the sky. 1 comes down, and it was said that we had military officers, highly intelligent, scientists go out to the tarmac to meet these aliens. And this is a scene that's in the movie. Actually, you watch towards the end, and you'll see this as they were showing some of the disclosure stuff that the guy was releasing. That's one of the scenes that he had released. And if you look into these files, that you could go in and you can read these cases. And the case actually talks about 1964, the Holloman Air Force Base. 3 entities came out of that craft, went in and talked to our officials. It doesn't say, in the disclosure file what they talked about. Of course, they're not going to go that far, but it just goes into what Brett and I are talking about. They're slowly releasing things, and you take it firsthand value. You read this stuff, and these are cases that were hidden from us that we weren't allowed to read, and you can read them, and they're right there. There's evidence that shows that we don't need the government to come out and tell us, hey, they're real. Aliens are real. I mean, there's so many of us out there that have either had an experience. We've seen the different UAPs in the sky. Several of us have seen them move out of the sea. Lights come out of the sea. From reptilians to whatever they might be, there is something out there. And like I know that Dr. Greer talks about a lot of the species or kind But there is a case, and it goes back to like Brazil, and there's other countries that don't hide their UFO files. And then if you can, I mean, you can go in and look at Brazil. Brazil, it's called the Black Files. And you just go online, look it up, and you can look through these cases. And I would suggest go look at the Chupa Chupa incident. It is very, very crazy incident. And there was actually a whole island, well, a whole tribe of people, villagers, to where they stopped fishing. They were scared to go outside, and so these people were being hit by these orbs are coming, and they said that they kind of looked like lollipops because there was an orb in the sky and then this beam comes down. And they said if you were hit by that beam, you would end up with three holes that it looked like. And so they called this the sucker sucker. And that's why it's Chupa Chupa. And they were saying that this balls of light in the sky, when they would hit them, they would end up with three marks. So they reported it to like their doctor. So their doctor kept getting all these incidents, and then some people were getting sick, lethargic. It looked like blood loss, and so they told the military. The military didn't believe them at first, but then, and it shows in the files that they went there. A general actually, they have, I believe, like hundreds of hours of video, and then they actually have like I don't know, I forget how many actual photos they have, but they took photos. And this is the military, and he said that he actually seen one of those crafts come out of the water. And this is all documented. These are real factual documents from the military. That, I mean, Brazil or not, these are people. You want some people with credible, evidence. Well, it's not just a random person or a random villager, one person. No, this is a whole village that stopped doing anything. They were scared to go outside. Fishermen stopped. People stopped, doing anything, that nobody's going outside at all. So the military actually did get involved and recorded all of this stuff. So there's actually recordings if you want to know if UAPs, and there is something else out there like Brett was talking about. There's four different entities. Yeah, right. There's not four. I mean, God probably made, and to think that God only created us is so round-minded. There's why are we the only ones that are so special to be made? And like even in Genesis and the Bible and so forth, it talks about that we were created on earth as like the most the best thing that happened, but that says on earth. It doesn't say in the universe. So there's other things that were made. And but yeah, what do you think about like the different case files being released in between Dr. Greer and then the case files that are being released by the U.S.? Do you think that these case files, like they're putting in fake case files, or do you think that they're actually trying to let people know that this is disclosure? This is how it's going to go. We're not going to come out and just be like, yeah, aliens are real. You guys are right. Here's a video. And because that's that down crash retrieval, technology that they still want to hide. So I think it's like that slow disclosure. What do you think about the disclosure cases?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's like soft disclosure for a certain target audience. And like you said earlier, like a lot of people already know this, but I would say actually there's a mass amount of the population that maybe aren't in tune to it. Maybe they haven't had experiences. Maybe they're very trustworthy. They just accept what they're told. And then they've been told this isn't true. And this is a laughable thing, actually. And that's one of the interesting things they've done. They changed the term from UFO, unidentified flying object, to UAP, to unidentified flying phenomenon. So why did they do that? Part of the reason is that because people had such a taboo reaction to UFO. So when it was certain people who, didn't believe this, when they hear that, they're just shut off, oh, it's conspiracy, it's nonsense. So by this, they can have new thoughts about it. So I think a lot of the files probably are real. There's probably a lot of cases of things that have happened. Though with the cases, I think you've got to be careful on the thing, and some things some people might find hard, some people already know this, obviously, is that a lot of this technology goes back to like World War II. A lot of this, the Foo Fighters come back then. This is well documented, certainly in the UK and the Allies, and even the Germans. The Foo Fighters are with these white orbs flying around erratically, and both sides were like, oh my damn, what have the other side made here? But it turns out it was something else watching. They come at that time of war, and of course, towards the end, the nukes were dropped. I think this was an interest in them. So this has been going on for some time, is what I'm getting at. And of course, there was the Grush released this, but a lot of us have heard this in rumour for a long time. That Mussolini, the dictator of Italy, who was allied with Hitler, actually they had a downcraft at that time, and that was known about, and that was given to Hitler, and his SS on the side were working on that with creating the Bell technology, which is anti-gravitational. So what I'm getting at is this technology has been known about, certainly by certain groups over time. More groups have got involved in this with getting downcraft, but this has been for some time they've been working on this. So some of these cases could be certain groups, and this could be black projects, this could be corporation groups, certain bloodline families, certainly, and certain elite groups who have islands in certain places like Antarctica, who actually could have built this and could be creating these scary narratives, like when they go and do the cattle and empty it, to create fear around the whole aspect of it. Because fear has been is a good weapon of control. We're a very tribal planet. We're very divided. Maybe some of this has been done on purpose. So when they have fear, you can easily control the masses. We saw this in COVID. They use fear tactics to control us, and I think that's something we've got to be careful with. This is that they go down that route, which in a way you can see certain parts of this foundation they're laying for this disclosure, and their disclosure doesn't necessarily mean it's a true disclosure of everything. This is then a narrative-based type of disclosure, And I think we can see that already happening, because they're saying about a lot of their threat, national security. Some of the agencies we don't know what they are. This national security threat. And you and I know Scotty and I have spoken about how the ETs, or certainly some beings, seem very much attracted to nuclear sites, for what reason. And again, we've said this is probably one way they'll create fear. This is they turn the nukes on, they turn them off. They could blow up the nukes. This is a national security threat. When actually probably what the ETs were trying to do is saying, look, you've got the matches now. You've got your matches and you've got your can of gas. If you spray that everywhere and you set that on fire, you could destroy the world. And they'll probably show. I think when they come, and I know there's cases about, certainly in Russia this happened. In Russia, in 1982, in one of their nuclear sites, everything switched on. The whole board switched on. The codes went in. They were locked on to fire at you guys in America. And then just before they're about to fire, magically they switched off. And at the same time, there was these red orbs flying around erratically around these sites. This has happened in America. So I think we've got to be careful not to be feared into this, is what I'm saying. That certain groups certainly like to use fear. So they're giving out a basis. So what they're saying is, this is real. There are things flying around. We're not really sure what it is. It could be these 4 species, or it could be China, or it could be Russia. It could be from another planet. And they're saying, but they're a national security threat, which creates fear on it. So, hopefully it moves forward. I would like to see it moving forward at some point. Because you're hearing about the crash retrievals a lot through whistleblowers and even in Congress, Scotty, as you well know. So we're hearing about that. I would like to see sooner or later they actually go, yeah, okay, we have got a downcraft. They're laying out the foundations, how they're real. So the shock of the consciousness, I think that's been a true worry for this, is how some people would react. I think that probably it flips up everything, So it seems like we're heading towards there. So I'd say the cases probably are real. I think it's a very soft disclosure to start with. It's just putting out some things saying this is real. It's becoming, instead of taboo to talk about for certain groups, now they're looking at it going, okay, it's probably real. It doesn't really affect me. And they're preparing. And then there'll be a little bit more dropped. There's obviously like things on the moon and stuff. There's objects and buildings and megaliths and, things like that will be released soon. Antarctica, I think that's got a big part of disclosure. There's 2 sides to that. There's the German sides where they went to their base, but also as an ancient civilization, possibly they will be released very soon. Is there entrances into Agartha, which Admiral Byrd spoke about? So I think it's a very complex subject. It goes back some time, but I think a lot of people have already done the research in this. And as it moves forward, if they don't get suppressed on their speech, then they can help inform other people once they get used to it. So I hope that helps in some kind of way.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, that's what we like to talk about too, is this disclosure. Is it a false disclosure? Are they just messing with us? That's all something that we have to take into consideration. But there are a lot of people, like Brett was saying, that have had no experiences, have never seen anything, just don't believe. No matter what you show them, no matter what you do, they're not going to believe it. They'll say it's AI, they'll say it's whatever. And then, you go into these case files, and these case files date back, way back. And in none of these case files do you see them just, a hostile takeover. I mean, if they're aliens, they wanted to do that, so there is no fear anywhere. Like Brett was saying, they tried to push that fear factor of flying over the nuke bases. Like one of the case files at the Ramblers Vault that I did was Mario Woods. Very fascinating case. A young man patrolling, the alarm goes off. He goes out to the nuke site and he sees a huge sphere, this huge, and he said it was like, I forget, he said it's like a supercenter Walmart size sphere that's in the sky, and orbs are dancing out of it, like they're patrols, drones. He didn't know what they were back then, being 19 years old and patrolling a nuke base, and then all of a sudden alarms going off. There's this huge thing, and your buddy that you're patrolling with is just dumbfounded and silent. Mario Woods was asking Michael Johnson, hey, what's going on? And he just was dumbfounded. He was just in total shock. And then Mario Woods even talked about that he saw three entities come up to him, and one was a tall, and two were smaller. But they started approaching the truck, and boom, they were out. And they woke up next to a dam, which was 10 miles away. He gets out and he looks. There's no tracks or anything. Fascinating cases that are going over the nuclear sites, like Brett's talking about. There's also, and then these case files show this because you can't hide it. The nuke base, all these different military men talked about. We saw this happened. Same with the Vandenberg Red Square. You even had contractors that were just they weren't military men, they're contractors working like construction workers. They're out there working. This huge square, this red square, comes over them and hovers there for a few minutes and then bolts off with phenomenal speed. And then later that night it comes back. So I mean, there's sightings of things being over the nuke bases, and I believe it's like what Brett was saying too. They're like, hey, you have this, that's neat, but you use this and you'll destroy your world, and it will affect. It doesn't just affect your world. When that explosion happens, it's going to affect the polarity around how the Earth is moving, the sun. You have all these different factors that are going to happen. If you use a nuke on the world and blow us to pieces, it's going to affect every thing within miles and miles into space. It's going to affect that as well. And who knows, it might blow us to pieces, and chunks of the Earth or something goes flying up, and next thing you know, we're hurling asteroids at different planets and destroying what could be biological different things on different planets. It only takes
just
micro.
to add a little thing to that is it might
Yeah,
even be on a quantum level, because when we're nuclear, we are reacting with the quantum level, the very, very, very small, which is almost like a different realm. And we can see that certain particles, certain protons, neutrons, and even atoms are quantumly entangled. And that doesn't matter how far the distance, it's instantaneously, which shows a connection between everything that we probably don't quite understand yet. So even just splitting the atom, even just testing them, could affect subspace and other things we just can't get our head around. That might have been one. It might have been like alarm bells for the ETs of advanced civilizations to go, hang on, they found this. We've got to go and try and put a stop to this. And then they flew over all these bases, more courts, and they stopped doing testing on them. Which is probably sensible. And I agree with the ETs. I mean, this is the fact of this is the problem is we've got psychopathic leaders quite often in charge, or people in power quite often are, because they've either been born into that or it kind of resonates to that. And they would say the threat is the ETs turning them off or trying to tell us you shouldn't be doing this. When I would say the actual threat is, we got nukes. This is just a ridiculous thing to have. If you think about it, like spiritually, logically, no one wants a nuclear bomb to wipe out cities and destroy the planet. It's just an insane idea. And it's
that never made sense to me.
We haven't actually had a proper nuclear war yet. That probably is some kind of miracle, because certain leaders are crazy enough. Let's be honest, and egos and whatnot. So I just wanted to add that though, but it might have been a quantum thing here that it was actually affecting something quantumly, which then attracted the ETs here. Sorry, Scotty, carry on.
Oh no, going back to what you were saying, when the atoms hit, that's why like CERN. I'm sure that sparked interest out there in the in outer space. It might have sparked some interest. Why are they slamming these atoms together? You're going to create a black hole, and next thing you know, you're just going to suck everything into it. So, you're playing with fire. You're smashing things into each other at phenomenal speeds, and just being curious to what happens because you want to figure out the secret to life or the secret to traveling back and forth into the future or into the past. And you're playing with dangerous grounds. There is what I believe. I really don't like because, like they said, it's like the Mandela effect and so forth, saying that these things didn't really happen when they did happen. And there's so many of us when we were younger, we saw these things. It's like the cornucopia. People have shown clothes that it was actually on there. There's actually court documents where they were talking about using the cornucopia, and then they're like, no, we never used that. No, we just used fruit. Bull crap. It's just funny how they try to hide things too that are in plain sight, to where that most of us, like Brett said, there's a lot of us out there that would just totally believe it. You're just totally like, whatever the government tells me is the truth. It's factual. They would never lie to us because they are the government. When then there's all the rest of us.
Interesting timing, Scotty. This is the time that's now been switched off. Like you said, there's no doubt in my mind they're doing far more at CERN and with these colliders than we've been doing.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about it.
Oh,
now, this could
time,
be something to do with timelines. I mean, the Mandela effect is real. There are different people that remember different things, but it's an interesting time that now it's been shut off. It feels like that's almost been done on purpose so they can stop. But like if they were, obviously the timeline shifts that people remember don't seem that significant. Like you say, it's like the Mandela effect of actual Mandela either dying in prison or becoming the president. That's the majorest one that different people remember. Otherwise, it's like different actors played different films, or like you say, the logos were slightly different, or the old monocle. See, I remember the monocle. I remember that.
Yep.
But it's not major differences. So maybe like what I'm saying is that they're trying to affect time, maybe shift into a negative timeline. But maybe because we're on this path, they couldn't do that, so they could only change smaller things, and maybe that's why they've shut it down now, because it's till 2030. And
the weird one, bro, is the Britney Spears thing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I remember the mic. 100%.
That's weird.
Yeah,
that is just weird.
Mic. And even the toys
so
have
many
the mic.
Remember that? That's bullshit. That's total bullshit. We remember that. There's even dolls and stuff over wearing that skirt.
But there are people that remember it differently. This is where it comes in. It's like with Mandela. That's definitely, there's no doubt people remember it, and that's a huge thing. And there are people that say there was no microphone. So maybe it's just a slight,
I believe that
if we want to quantum reality, and it is an infinite field, then there probably is like different versions of the universe stacked up, and maybe when they're fucking about with this, it shifts you into this other one, but it's like a slight change, and some consciousness from either side, some remember both ways.
I think that's where it shows the difference in people too. I believe that some people will see that and remember it that way. No matter what you tell them, they will see it and remember, no, that's how it was. She was wearing all black, yada, yada. She never had a mic on her head, those kind of things. They will remember that, because if you can brainwash with this, just using, different, videos or so forth, and you're able to brainwash most of the public into remembering it one way. When the rest of us, for some reason, our minds aren't tricked that way, and we still remember things the way that they were, even though it's hard for you to like totally pinpoint for 100% that these things were that way. But then when you start seeing evidence that, okay, well, that cornucopia, or the monocle, or spelling of Captain
I'm more
Crunch,
intrigued to go on my beliefs. I think some people remember both. I think
that's what I mean. That's why I think it comes to that brainwashing, to where, and people don't think that they could do it. Well, you can do it with a frequency. You can brainwash people. They do remote viewings, and it's even in the Disclosure Day how they were doing like remote viewing, but being able to take you over for a little bit. And you've got to watch the movie too, because Disclosure Day has some really fascinating little things that if you've wondered about it and you've seen how they can brainwash. It could just be a video with a certain frequency or something that makes people's minds remember it a certain way, and it totally blocks you off. But then there's other people's minds that have been so open that I don't think it affects us the same way. And we're able to remember things and not take it to face value that when the government tells you that, oh, that's not how you remembered it, you're wrong. Your memory is wrong because that was never there and that never happened. No matter how hard you think, oh well, there was a monocle. I remember he had it on the
Yeah,
Monopoly,
Michael.
or so forth, all the different things. But there are certain ones of us that I believe did get brainwashed, and you'll never see it any other way
But then
because
people
that's what
might say they might say that you're the one that got brainwashed, you know.
Yep.
So it could be they could be doing that to just prove the manipulation of the brainwashing technology, which they can do. There's very simple ways you can brainwash or influence for sure. You know,
Oh,
certain
big time.
images, certain sound frequency, just through music. You know, you can influence someone's emotional state, or it could be that some people will want a slightly different timeline. You know, I think either way, there's certainly the phenomenon of the Mandela effect is real. You know, but the
Oh
actual
yeah.
fact of Mandela dying in prison and not that one's more noticeable. So I find that less likely to be brainwashing. You know, where there's smaller ones, you could probably maybe some people would just if they get told it was or she didn't have a mic, so
Yep.
therefore they just accept that. Oh, I must have been wrong. You know, but I think with Mandela, the actual Mandela effect, that's pretty interesting because people swear by it. You know, and for me,
Yep.
he come out obviously, but many people say he died in prison. And then they
Oh
swear by
yeah.
it. It was mainstream. They remember it, you know?
Yep. Yeah, there's so
Interesting,
many
man.
different cases, bro. Yeah, it's so interesting. And now it's like, it's a great time to be alive because if you started back in, like, our generations where we got to see all of the technology advancing in such a short time period. And it shows how the human mind can evolve so quickly, too, because we went from telephones, you're dialing a number or spinning it on the phone to where everybody has one. We went from, like those cameras that were disposable cameras and you'd get like 30 pictures in it. Now you have a phone to where you can take 3,000 pictures and the things are still in there. It's fascinating, the technology jump from when I was young till now.
But is it a real technology jump? Because if you go to Nikola Tesla and some of his ideas to now, and we're missing out. There's like two sides to that.
Oh yeah,
There's the
that's
mainstream
what I
right,
mean.
but also there's been a unbelievable leap in our technology. You know, that's been kept
Exactly.
hidden.
I
You
mean,
know,
we
it's like
went
a
from riding
takeaway. That's
around
that's
on.
something we need to talk about with disclosure. Some people might not even be able to imagine that the technology that humans have got that they were playing about with this in World War II. You know, this was their move to America. Was a real incident. It was real beings crashed in New Mexico, were taken, and one of them was alive, known as Skinny Bob or Eba, and then became Eba One because they made contact. So they've been mucking around with this. A lot of people say like the TR-3B was more or less by mid 70s. That was flying around, huge. I've seen the thing, huge.
Yeah.
That was flying around when I saw that as a kid, and I looked up at that. I not in a million years did I think, oh, that's art. I thought, they're aliens, man. And then as I got older and I'd done more research, I thought, no, that's ours. And that was there. Can you imagine some of the technology they've got now? You wouldn't be able to tell. You know, even like people like us who are very read into this would find it very hard to tell. Some of them, you know. TR3B, I'd probably go that's ours, but some of these silver tic tacs and that, they're unbelievable, man. When you see the videos, and chances are they're probably human back engineered technology that we've got and flying around, man. It's crazy, you know.
Oh, big time, bro. Yeah, it goes to experiencers too. Like you're an experiencer. I'm an experiencer. That V craft, there's no way that's human technology. That thing was so huge. I mean, it was each side. You're talking about two aircraft carriers down each side of this V-shaped craft that flew over our house. And that's not all that we've seen. We've seen, like Brett said, the orbs that dance around and then, they're just gone.
The
Or
orbs
they
are
go
definitely
straight up
not
in the air.
technology. You know, that's comes
3
kind of
points of
being.
light traveling through the sky and then just whoop up into the sky, gone. It's fascinating. And one of the best ones was, and I've even seen that boogosphere. I've seen this black ball fly over me in the backyard. There's so many different things that if you're just out there watching, you'll accidentally see these things. And that goes to experiencers too. And that's what I was kind of getting to. And yeah, get your feelings on that too. But like, so we've had experiences and we believe because of that experience. So there's nothing that anybody could tell me that says that there's not something else out there, because I've seen these things, and there's no man-made craft. You'd splatter against the wall on some of the crafts that we've seen
Yeah,
move.
but
You're
not using the technology. You know, a lot of these have their own gravitational fields around them. So
yes,
that's why they can move
exactly.
like that. And I think that's something people are going to get hard to get their head around. This is how they could
Yep,
do like Project Bluebeam, because they could fly some of these around. And even you and I, if we saw them, we just saw they popped up and they come above, we would probably think they're extraterrestrial straight away because we're not used to seeing it. But
yep.
they exist. We have this technology, you know, and the space program's probably been running for some time. Probably that's probably been going from the 50s and that, from the down crafts. And now, there's rumors, and some of the high up whistleblowers even say there's even interstellar craft that human have made. Think about that. That's not going to like Mars or the moon. That's going into another solar system. It's into another star system. To think, and there's no proof that that's released, but they've certainly been working on this a long time. And I would say that some of it doesn't. If people saw it, you'd think it's that, because it would make more sense to how we've been kind of portrayed on our technology. We couldn't possibly have that, but I think people would be shocked. I think if they had the TR-3B in the 70s, and they've been working on that ever since, they've been taking these crash retrievals, so they've been getting new looks from new technologies. A lot of time they have beings in. From what I hear, quite often the beings help re-engineer it. They're captured, so they're either going to sit in the cell, be experimented on, or they help do it. Imagine what we could have, or certain groups on this planet could have, Scotty.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
takes
something
us
that
to
people
like
need to be aware of.
the Reagan administration. So when Ronald Reagan, he had there's a message that I mean, there's a paper that was written, and it actually he's talking, and he says that he was told about the technology that we have, to where a craft that 300 people are on it that can go into space. So, like Brett's saying, that technology, I think that we've had that technology for a long
And it's
time,
been getting
and
better,
for
better,
the
better, better,
regular,
better.
yes,
We're probably
exactly,
we're
to
probably
where
in some projects
could
they can
fly in
match
these crafts.
ETs now. It's probably
I'm
equal to
sure that we've
some
been out there.
civilizations. We're probably equal to. Crazy to think, man.
Oh yeah, I think that we've been traveling the stars. I don't think that we've been earthbound like we've been told, and to disclose that is going to be very hard, because once you hide something for so long, it's going to be really hard for people to believe. Even like what we were just talking about, even us, we would be, if we see that dancing around in the sky, our first thought isn't, oh, that's man-made. Our first thought is, what is a UAP? Unidentified. We have no clue what it is, because nobody is. We don't have any facts that ever say that we made these crafts and actually show us. So disclosure will be more of, we know that there's aliens out there. We know that there's other things out there, but the biggest thing is, what ones are ours? Which crafts are ours? Why can't you let us know? Why is the government so above us?
I
And
think it's beyond government. This, I really do. I
yeah,
don't
well,
think.
yes,
I think
I
the
totally
government
agree with that
levels.
too. The dark side's hiding that stuff.
Me, you, and Jackie, and probably the people watching here know more about it than they do. Than if the truth be
Oh
told.
yeah,
They're
yep,
clueless to it, and that's
I
how they
agree
can be
with you on that.
manipulated. But also,
I
people like
believe
you say who aren't so
most
into it
government don't.
publicly, they also could be fooled quite easily. And so could we. Like I just, I openly said that.
Yeah,
So could anyone. So you've got to
yeah,
be sort of look at it with a real open mind, really. But one thing we can say for sure is these, there are beings visiting us, and there's different types.
yeah,
Some of them are extraterrestrial, a lot of them are ours, some of them from inner Earth. And then you're saying when you got these like plasma, like Grush was talking about, like when he talked press conference outside, I think it was close to the White House or somewhere. I mean, he was saying about these plasmoids that that's not technology, that's some kind of consciousness or some kind of
yeah,
intelligence that's coming down and interacting in its own way. We're perceiving it as we're perceiving it because it might just be on a higher vibrational state that when it comes into Earth that we just can't perceive it to what it truly looks like. So we see it as a bright, like fireball. I've also seen these with my own eyes more than once, and
yeah,
there's something conscious about it, and it certainly activates your consciousness when you see it. It's exciting, and I can still I'm almost getting goosebumps now remembering, but it's some kind of consciousness to it. So there's life forms here that are like orbs, they're some kind of intelligent, it's just incredible. And, hopefully we come to a time, this is what we're saying is, what's this disclosure building up to? Is it building up to complete fear, terrorize everyone, some false flag things. And we know certain government groups aren't beyond doing false flags. It has happened in much in our history. With these technologies, were some of these people mad enough, or like you say, it pushed into a corner so much where they've maybe done bad things with this? They've lied. A lot, we could not we could cure a lot of problems on Earth, financial, health problems, suffering, starvation, destroying the planet. All this stuff could disappear with the technology. So there's a fear from them to hide it, or to turn it into their narrative that it's fear. They do some false flags, unite the earth. Is what Reagan, you're talking to Reagan, he said that in the UN, like a threat from the outside, how it would unite us as a warrior type species, then to join in as one and fight the big bad aliens. And then what have you got? Like a military, you've got a one world government under control of fear and a military tactic, is which I wouldn't like to see the human species going that way. I'd rather see a Star Trek future, where we're meeting with these beings. And that's the other possible timeline of disclosure, is that we're heading into a time of open contact where we can meet and we can learn from these beings. They can show it. We might learn some truths about history, ancient history, previous cycles, before flood. It's interesting, man. Like, where's this headed? So I just wanted to sort of give the two sides of that, Scotty. Rambling on. Boy.
Yeah, going off of you right there, I believe that Star Trek is actually happening right now. For someone like, my mind goes to thinking, if they're hiding that much already, and all these different, like the Reagan administration, and he had said, what if there was a bigger threat? Then we'd all come together pretty good, right? If there was a threat that's out there compared to fighting each other, thinking that we're all humans, we should all be one. We're not different from each other.
We shouldn't need an outside threat to stop killing, murdering, raping, and pillaging each other.
Exactly. And it goes to show that I don't think that mainstream people would be able to handle a lot of it either, or they wouldn't believe. Either way, it goes either way. That some of them might not even believe. You know what I mean?
But it could get to a point where just by looking up in the sky outside, it's obviously clear something's going on. It could be why this disclosure is being packed so much now, because we could be heading to an event that certain groups know about. And that's a lot of people speak about that, and it feels that way, that we're heading towards something. And that's why when I watch it unravel, this disclosure, I've been looking into it for years, and you can see this Project Bluebeam thing coming out, which was Von Braun. It was Operation Paperclip. Guy went from making missiles to making rockets, and he was in on this cabal stuff. He was into a lot of this, and on his deathbed, it was one of the things he said. And you can see them kind of the cards playing out. But on the other side, you can see like a lot of mad people on Earth have had experiences now and are into meditation, DMT, are interacting with these different life forms. That creates two possibilities, like two sort of timelines. So I think it's down to people. We get to, not only are we observing, by observing reality, by observing wave patterns, it creates them into tangible reality. Also, our tensions and our beliefs also do create the reality. And I'm a true believer in that,
So most definitely.
A good one, a happy disclosure.
And going back to talking about presidents and so forth, in the movie Disclosure Day, they have a cool scene, and it was really funny because I don't know, most of you have heard about President Nixon and Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason wanted to see the aliens, and Nixon took him there and supposedly showed him. And it was funny as hell because it was a scene in the movie, bro, and it showed Nixon like showing Jackie Gleason the aliens. So it was just kind of funny. Yeah, it was a cool scene. It was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's been talked about that Nixon showed Jackie Gleason the aliens, and then they had the scene in the movie. It was great. So if you haven't seen the movie, you gotta watch it. It was just funny to see that scene happen. But like in the movie Disclosure Day, there, like Brett was talking about, it's not just the military. There's this darker agency that's actually in control. They even control our military and stuff. So, and then the main guy can even remote view and go into you and make you want to do something. Like in the movie, it showed he was taking over the girl that's in the movie, and he's trying to mind warp her to where she's gonna kill the guy with all the disclosure files and stuff. So it's just really crazy movie. It's just crazy to think that little parts in the movie actually do kind of show you like the disclosure parts. What I was talking about, like the landing, that was an actual event that is documented in the disclosure files, and you can go and take a look at it. Holloman Air Force Base, take a look at that case. It's fascinating. And the McGuire Air Force Base, you got to look at that. It was said that a guy shot one and killed an alien that it hopped over the fence and died on the tarmac. Fascinating cases. If you just go look at these cases, there was actual evidence of our military personnel documenting these things, and it's there. It's proof that there's been things out there and that have visited us, and that we were so scared that we ended up shooting them, and they might have been totally friendly, and might have that alien that he shot that night might have been just scared and like, hey, how would you feel if you're on another planet and all of a sudden you're surrounded by people, or there's this weird pickup looking truck coming at you and a guy starts opening fire on you? I mean, I'm surprised that they haven't attacked us or something, because we're so violent. First thing that we do is want to,
They know the risks, and I imagine there's beings out there that are probably like, just drive on past, just drive on past them. But some of them, maybe they have a reason to come here that, speculative could be many different things. But
they say like the Federation, the Galactic Federation is on our side, and that makes it like, I was going back to the Star Trek talk. I totally believe that there's Star Trek already happening out there. I believe there's planets that we probably visiting and doing trades with and so forth out there, and it's stuff that you wouldn't bring this stuff here. So there's probably another planet, like they talk about the moon. We have bases inside the moon, that kind of stuff. There's probably other planets that we're actually going to, because like Brett was saying, that technology of being able to be inside of a craft and be able to just launch yourself, and then normally we'd be splattered against the wall, but it doesn't affect us. You can walk around like in Star Trek,
it's like
you're walking around on it.
So it'd be like 1G. So it'd be like nothing. It wouldn't even be like you're moving.
But yeah, be normal. Just be like sitting here talking to each other. You wouldn't even know that you're traveling.
When they say us, that is like, what the bad thing is, it's like a breakaway part, that's living a completely different reality, really, different technologies, different experiences. And maybe over time we're heading towards that. They're talking about doing more moon bases now, official ones. Like you say, it's guaranteed there's bases on the moon. They've probably been to Mars. They're at Mars, you've got to start being people. Oh, there's no way. You've got this technology, like Scott says, you're using it. I know I would be.
Yep.
So, I mean, imagine there's bases on Mars and the moon, and maybe other places.
Almost
maybe like you're saying with the Galactic Federation, there's a lot of that's pop culture. There's certainly beings out there. Some people say they're good and they're hell. Others, there's two sides to that. I wouldn't know the answer to that because I haven't been blessed to go out there and meet them yet. But there's certainly something going on, and there's probably rules. There's probably rules of the universe. The universe has been going for some time. I imagine some of these biological civilizations, these beings, may have been going for millions of years. So there may be certain rules, certain things that can be done and can't be done. Maybe that's why there's big change coming on Earth. Maybe for us, even for the breakaway side, for them to truly go out and do it, they're saying, we've given you like a little bit, but yeah, the whole planet has to be freed in this sense, and then you do it as a one consciousness. Maybe that's part of the reason for disclosure. But I would say for sure, I'm with you, there probably is humans that have been to other planets, certainly Mars, certainly the moon, at the very least, and probably other places. You've got to understand, but some of these crafts, you see these beings along by visual, by watching them, you can see it almost point to point. They're extremely very fast. But some of them are very probably point to point. They can travel through subspace, so it's almost instantaneously. And if we've managed to master that, some of that technology, or even one group has, they're going to use it. You're going to test it. So,
you're definitely going to use it. You're going to travel around, bro. And like
it's like free energy, all this, everything. We're in a position now where the world could change. And AI, I know there's fear in AI, and there's reason to be in some ways, because it is unknown, and the way some humans are teaching it might not be the best thing to do. But with AI, with these new technologies, we could really have a world of abundance, just doing what you love to do, having what you want when you want, going where you want when you want, with some reason, Instead of this world, in these countries out there, people have got nothing. People that can't even turn a light bulb on. I've worked on there when I went in Romania. I was doing the charity work. They got no electric. They had no toilets. Nothing. They don't need to be living like that. It's crazy. It's time for the world to catch up, you know. And that's one thing I agree with Dr. Greer for sure. Is he said it's the lost century, and it is. You know, you can
Yeah.
tell this back to humans. You know, Nikola Tesla was working on certain ideas, and from him to other without the downcraft, people have come up with these energy devices. You know, Secrecy Act, boom, taken away. It's mad.
Yeah, like you were saying with Dr. Greer, I mean, he's actually has the site where you can go to, and you can, if you don't go into ours, you know, the government files, you can actually go to Dr. Greer. He has like 700 files that you can go and read. So
Yeah,
it's
mind
just
blowing.
proof that there is disclosure, and to take disclosure, you're going to have to take it at, you know, your as what you feel inside too, is what I believe, is that disclosure is going to be what it is to you. If you don't want to see it, you're just not going to see it. And if you believe and you know that there's something else out there, you're going to start seeing these things. And I don't think that the brainwashing happens as much to people that are open, because I feel like maybe we've broken down that field of just total disbelief. Oh, there's no way I'm going to believe that there's aliens out there. There's no way. And from someone, you know, like someone that's totally devoted to their faith, they might not want to see that because that messes with their religion of some way. Well, it doesn't. It just, it's just like the same thing where people
I
are
think,
like,
if
oh, you
anything,
know,
it would more add that a lot of these ancient stories probably going to turn out that they weren't myth, they weren't fantasy. You know that and
yeah, it
all
goes
even the Bible
how it
speaks
would
of other
change the
beings.
world, and it's going to change everything. Everything's going to remain the same. It's just like I was saying earlier
I don't
too.
think so, mate.
Everything's
I think it's
the
going
same.
to change. I think it's going to change a
They've
lot. I
always
think
been
it's going
here.
to change on who we are, our history. I think how we interact. War will become a thing of the past once these technologies
Oh
start to get
yeah,
released. There won't need of conflict. We might even be able to interact with these beings. I think it would change. I think it would change everything, and the
I
matrix
think
will
it would open
finally
up
be destroyed.
technology. Oh,
Golden
I
age,
yeah, definitely. I
true
think it would
golden
come
age.
free energy,
Yeah,
technology. All of
free
these things would
energy.
play in the
Then
mind.
immediately you don't have to work as much because
Yep,
inflation would be gone because there'd be no
yep,
energy costs. And
yep.
everything, the cost of everything is to do with energy, transporting it, the fuel, you know, the carbon taxes, the time, the
Oh yeah.
paying people. This really, we could be living in a different world pretty quickly. But it depends how quick they come to it, you know. Like you say, it's going to be hard for them to admit. People need to realize how long this has been going on. Like you say, you could say ancient times,
Yeah.
ancient Egypt, Atlantis probably was real, Israel was real. You know, something happened. That was a long time ago on a previous cycle. But in our time, you can say for sure that Nazi Germany had connected onto some things, maybe even had contacts. You know, a lot of people say that. A lot of people say Eisenhower, he signed over to the Greys, he made contracts with the Greys. But you go back, it was probably the Germans who had some kind of deal with with reptilian beings. You know, and people find that some people find that out as crazy, but it's not. You know, these beings have been interacting with Earth for a long time. There seems to be a point where it was more closed off. You know, and maybe if they were coming in, maybe they were breaking rules, or maybe the ones that were seen were the ones actually in inner Earth, so therefore they can come in and out, but they can't interact. But we're heading to a time where, so like you said, so many people have had experiences, even if that's just seeing a UFO, UAP, or that is, you know, some people have had where they've gone onto crafts, or they've had altered states of consciousness, interaction. That, you know, I've had that on DMT. I've had that through meditation, both. You know, and I can tell you, it's like some people say, oh, it's just your mind, but you know, you smoke some DMT, you go to the DMT realm, and not one person that's done DMT has said, "Oh, that was in my mind," because you're not. You're communicating with other life forms, other like non-physical. They're like non-material, non-physical. But one thing I'd say, like when you go to the DMT and you come back, it's like now I'm in 4K. When you go in there, you're in 4K, and then you come back into this reality, and it's like going into black and white TV. You're like, what is this? You know, it's more real. This non-physical reality, which is obviously surrounding us, which, you know, this holographic matrix is being created of this material realm. It's more real there. You know, I can't, unless you've done it, you can't, you know, you can't understand it. But it's incredible. And there's definitely beings there, Scotty. You know, and the thing is with DMT as well, is there's people from different places who know nothing about it. You smoke DMT, you're going to come across the same list and same kind of beings. It's not going to be like a hallucination where it's unique to your beliefs or what you'll see or what your brain or what your frequency is. You will all see similar things, which says it's real. You know.
Yeah, besides Danny Jones, I'd seen a thing on Danny Jones, and I'll have to tell you after what he said he saw. But it ain't anything that I would ever see if I had a DMT trip. I'll tell you afterward. So if you guys want to know what he saw, you're gonna have to go watch it. Danny Jones. It's hilarious what this guy saw on DMT, bro. But for me, like right now, I believe now is the time of disclosure. Like the movie Disclosure Day came out. I actually believe that these are our disclosure days. There's all of these case files. You have Dr. Greer, you have the governments. They're all showing their case files now. They're slowly bringing them out because, like I said, it's hard to just dump disclosure out for hiding it for so many years. You've been hiding it for decades. I mean, yeah, and like Brett said, they've been hiding it even before then. You go back to the Sumerian tablets and stuff. You can look back then that they've been hiding it throughout the years from us, which makes no sense because that just I don't understand why you would hide something that profound. Those kind of
Control, man. It's
technologies.
the control the
Why can't the
consciousness.
regular
Don't
population
know what
have
you are.
that
You're
free
confused.
energy? I don't. Yeah, it makes it so dumbfounding why one group of people are allowed to have this free energy and be able to use it, and then the rest of us just have to sit here and fight. And then the biggest thing is the disclosure. Try to make us think that we're crazy. You make so many people think that they're crazy when we've seen these things, but I believe now is the time for disclosure. That's why Brett and I wanted to talk about a little bit about disclosure going on right now and all the different things that are happening. And just it's a fascinating time to just
Right.
see our world evolving and disclosure happening. So I'm just I'm in that mood and in that mind zone of disclosure anyway. Exactly, bro. I'm
Same
just
here, mate. It's in here. It's in here.
Yes, it's in here. You totally feel it, that disclosure that there's something else out there. You just want to know, and you look up at night into these stars, and you just know that there's more out there than
It's more out
what is
there,
at face
and there's
value.
more in
Yes,
here than we've been led to believe.
exactly.
And
Yep.
it is. It's been like an awakening, like awakening. Like you say now, some people there are still a small amount of people that need to hear it from mainstream media, need to hear
Yep.
it, but a lot of people have gone through an awakening. When that started with distrust, with government, a lot of this stuff's bull BS. We're being played and manipulated, and through that, and you go deeper down to the rabbit hole, and it ends in a beautiful place. You know that they've been doing it for a reason, but the time's over now. And I think we are heading to a event. And like you said, man, this is disclosure, and there is a
Yep.
mainstream disclosure, and they've already set the foundation. They're basically already set into the mindset now of your average people. There's things flying around, we don't know what there is. They've already set in the crash retrieval. I imagine over the next coming months, it's going to bang, there's going to be things that drop. And we'll go into it, Scotty. We'll come back and we'll ramble about it, because that's what we love to do. And it's
Oh,
been
most
intriguing to see
definitely,
where
bro.
it goes, Scotty, and where this is going to lead to. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I think over the next couple of years they're going to be big, up to even going into we're talking about going all the way to 2030. I think by then there's going to be so much, bro. And it's like we were talking about, they're slowly going to do it. They're not just going to be like, bam, aliens are real. Hey, here's Tom.
Well, I
Tom's
think
cool as
AI's
shit.
got a part in this as well, in this
Yep.
movement, in this transformation. If done right, you mix all this together and we could be looking good.
Yeah, I just don't believe they're going to jump out and be like, yeah, you can have a beer with Tom and talk about the stars. Tom's a cool alien from Nebula or whatever. That's that's not going to happen. It would be cool. It would be cool as hell to be able to have a drink with Tom from Nebula, but that ain't going to jump out. It's going to slowly trickle out. And I'm just excited to be alive right now and excited to be with everybody because we're all one. We all have that energy inside. And like Brett was just saying, we're finding out more that's inside us, that that calling to the stars, that's true and that there is more out there. But yeah, I just wanted to, is there anything else you want to throw in? We're approaching our hour here.
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed that. I suppose the only thing I would add is I agree it's going to be drip, drip, prepare. But sooner or later, and I think you're right, by 2030, by the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to change rapidly. And I think it's going to be drip, 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 floodgates open. And when the floodgates open, hopefully people can sit back, as it will be a lot to take in for some people when more comes out. But then to realise that a lot of people have already been into this, and the people that some people maybe have called crazy that know a lot about it. There's obviously a lot of disinformation out there as well. I'm not denying that. You got, like you said, you really got to take what resonates. But I think one thing everyone agrees on, this has been going on for some time, and we do have these technologies. A lot of these beings are benevolent. Like you said, otherwise I think they could have destroyed us at any point.
Yep.
And I think if we'd have found other beings like us, we'd probably go and get rid of them. Dangerous. they're very patient with us. They're probably more advanced spiritually, technologically. They maybe know more to what actually the universe, consciousness, God, creation is, which might give them a different perspective, which we might get to learn. So yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm totally excited to where it's going. I've been, excited to talk to you about it. The first thing I want you to do after we finish is tell me about what happened with mate on DMT. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
And I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Definitely check out the Ramblers Vault. If you're into the cases, Scotty does them beautifully. There's AI art on it, and there's a funny little music at the end, and it's good. I certainly enjoy them. I'm sure you will. And of course, if you fancy some meditations and such, and Jackie's done some incredible meditations on our main page, so you can go through and find them. You can probably find them in the playlist as well. So
yeah, Jackie's also done a couple of the Ramblers Vault too.
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm sure the.
Oh yeah, I was going to throw out that Jackie's done a couple of cases for the Ramblers Vault too. She's come up with some pretty fascinating cases too.
Jackie doing them. Yeah, she's done actually. What she's done is very good.
Yep. Yeah, she did really good. And I was like, man, we should just have you do it from now on.
Make sure you give a like and give us a subscribe if you're enjoying it. Helps us build it. It's hard to get we found the YouTube algorithm very difficult to get working compared to other ones, so that would help us out. And it's just much love, and let's look forward to seeing this happen. And hopefully one day we can have physical contact with these beings and have a party at your house, Scotty.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Have that free that free energy technology to where you can just come over and I can go over and we can have barbecues. But yeah, everybody, make sure you like and subscribe. I know it's hard to hit that button, but make sure you hit that button for us because it really changes our algorithm and we want to pick it up. And we want to be able to bring you these cases and so forth. So come on, give us a hand. And just sending much love to everybody and sending peace to the world. And hearts up to y'all. Take care. Sending much love. Take care, everybody. See you next time.